Yeah. So in our previous session, what we saw types of internal table, right? Then we saw selection screen, also known as input screen. Then we saw the concept of classical report and how we can bring the data from our database table, and then we can perform any kind of operation once we have brought the data. So what we saw there, that we have got OpenSQL and native SQL. We are using OpenSQL to bring the data from our header table, right? So we brought the data from header table, which was my VBAK, right? This is what we did. Now the question here is, which is the today's topic, how can I bring the data from item table also based on the data present in present in the header table. Okay. Yes. Mainly this kind of requirement we usually have, because if we are performing operation on certain columns of header, there can be possibility that we might also need the item columns, right? So how we are going to bring it? Just think on that, how we are going to bring it. So to understand this situation, I will create a program and we will go a little bit deep inside our classical report. Then we will understand this thing. So let's create a program. I will name it classical report deep dive. Create understanding complex kind of classical report. Executable, save, package and tr. So for our employee table, if I have to create a internal table, I will need a structure, right? I will need a structure. Yes. I will create a structure. Just go slowly. Everything is easy here. Only I will say that they are lengthy in nature. If you have enough patience for it, you will learn everything. Okay. Yes. So column 1, column 2, and its data element. Let me see all the rest of the columns. So I'll go to SE11 and then I will open my table. I will see employee name, then department. Let's see that I'm going to use 4 columns of it, 4 columns of my employee table. So then I will go for third one, department. Let's type. Then I will go for 4th column. And of TY employee. It's internal table. And work area. This is what we do. Table of, type TY employee. Then I was creating a select option, right? Did I created it in the previous session?
I think you need to select command to take data from the database.
Yes, we use in, right? We use in.
Yes.
Select option. So this is how I will create as employee ID for my variable. Then I was writing query, so select employee ID, employee name, department manager from table name into table LT employee, where employee ID in as employee ID. Very simple, right? Once I have the data, I am going to perform all those things. Now my requirement is a little bit different. Let's take a requirement. Requirement is bring the data from header and also item table, and then display them together. Display them together. Bring the data from header and also item table, and then display them together. Think on that. How we can do it? Just think on that.
With a view, right?
What?
I was thinking to create a view to show those two.
Yeah, that
tables,
is
right?
separate stuff, but we are directly coding here. I want to directly bring the data. So the most easy, see, we have got two approach for it. Okay, if we want to bring data from multiple things, we have got two approach. The first approach is create two different structures for both header and item. Okay, and create their respective internal tables. And what we will do, bring the data from both the tables and store them in internal table. Then what we will do, we will create a final structure which will have both the columns of these internal tables. Then I will create a final internal table using this structure. And then we will finally store data from both the internal table into this final internal table. Okay.
Yes.
And then what we will do, we'll display the data because we have got all the data in final, right? The data from this is one approach. Now just think on that. If I have to create, if I have to bring the data from my item table, I will need structure for item also, right? So I am creating a structure for it. TY, let's say project, employee ID, type, employee ID, project ID, type, project ID. Let me see other column, project details. Yeah, this one. Project name and data element. So project name, type its data element, project name. I will end it. So end of TY project. Then what I will do? I will define its internal table also, right?
Yes.
So LT project, just follow the steps. If I use directly copy and paste all these things, you will not be able to understand, right? So I am
Yes.
showing just how you can follow the approach before writing the code. This code, before writing any code, you must create all the steps in your mind. And if you are not able to create it, always try to write the steps. Write the steps. Maybe in comment or at any place, always try to write the steps, then follow those steps and get the output. Still you are failing, try it again. This is the only way to learn.
Yes.
Ty project, then ls project, type ty underscore project. My internal table for header and item. I have got both the structure, right? Then what I will do, I have created the internal table for both of them. Then I need to bring the data from both the table and store in their respective internal tables, right? So how will I do that? I have already brought data from header. Now tell me, how am I going to bring data from my item? Will I write same to same query for item also?
I think so, yes. But just to pull it from a different table, the item
Yeah,
table.
but item is dependent on header, right? Item is
Yes.
dependent on header. So here we are going to follow the approach of the first approach, which is also known as, inside this first approach, which is for all entries. This concept is known as for all entries. For all entries in header, we are going to bring the items data so that we can maintain the consistency. For all entries is used to bring the corresponding data from the item table based on header. Okay, this is the first actual approach. Second one is also known as diff something else, we will know, but for now, for all entries. So here, so if I have to bring the data from my item and I am going for the condition that data must be there in header, then I will bring it, right? Data must be in it. So how will I check that if there is some data in it or not? How will I check?
With the where condition?
No. I have to check that the data must be there in this header internal table. Then I will bring the data from my item. Otherwise, it is meaningless to write the query, right? So
Yes.
there is two ways. Either you can check the size of RC condition. Again here, I had told you already, size of RC is very important. Either you can do this thing or you can do if LT employee is not initial, that is not empty. Here initial means empty. So I am checking that my internal table is not empty. Then here I will write for all entries to bring data from my item. Otherwise I will not bring the data. Is this thing clear?
Yes.
So select your employee ID, project ID, and project name. These are the three columns. These are the three columns from my item table, right? From my table name, project details, into table LT project, right? LT
Yes.
project for all entries in. Here we are using for all entries concept, for all entries in your internal table of LT employee. So it will check the entries in your LT employee where employee ID is equal to LT employee hyphen employee ID. This is the syntax of your for all entries. We are checking the data in the header internal table. Based on that, I'm bringing data on my project details table or item table. So the data that is present inside this internal table, both the common primary key is the employee ID, right? The common primary key between both header and item is employee ID. So based on it, I am bringing data from my project details table and storing it in LT project. So only those data will come whose data is there already present in header. Only those data. I don't need any other data, right? This is how for all entries works. Now, if I put a breakpoint here, if I put a breakpoint to check if it is working or not, I will execute it. Oh, S employee ID is there. Let's change its name. So go to text element. I will go to selection text, and here I'm going to change its name. A range for employee ID. Activate it. Go back, and here I'm passing, let's say 101 to 105. I will execute. I will go for desktop 3. Double click on LT employee. Can you see we have got 5 rows? We have got 5 rows.
Yes.
And if I go for my LT project, can you see we have got 15 rows, right? We have got this 15 rows. Perfectly fine. So I am getting these 2 data, right? I am getting these 2 data. Now what will be my next step? A final structure. And I will also create a final internal table. So let's create a final structure here. Types begin of ty underscore final employee ID. Sorry, just copy and bring all these columns. No need to write it again. Just copy it from here and paste it here. Then I will also copy the column of item. Since I have already used the employee ID, there is no meaning of writing it again. I will copy rest columns and bring it and end it. So end of ty underscore final. Pretty printer. Okay. I will create its final internal table and work area also. So LT final type table of ty underscore final ls final type ty underscore final LT final and ls final. Now what will I do? Tell me, how will I be able to send the data from my header and item to my final internal table? How will I do that?
With a loop to fill it.
Yes, we will go for loop. How will I go for loop? Think on that. How will I go for my loop?
By by comparing each of the members of the tables.
Okay. So first we will go for header loop at LT employee into LS employee. Now just think on that here. Then we are also need the data from my item, right? We also need the data from our item. So we will go for item also. Loop add LT item into LS item and loop. And loop. Now just think how many times this loop is going to work. This item has 15 records, right? This item has 15 records. This header has 5 records. So for each time, for each or data of your outer loop, this inner loop will execute for 15 times, right?
Yes.
For each iteration of your outer loop, this inner loop will execute loop at LT project into LS project, which is completely meaningless. There is no meaning of executing it 15 times because for each header we only have 3 items, right? We only have 3 records in item. So what we will do, instead of executing this inner loop for that much time, so that complexity will automatically increase. So to reduce it, what we can do, we can give here a where condition. We can give here a where condition where employee ID of my ls project is equal to employee ID of ls employee. That it only going to execute now. This inner loop will only execute for the matching records of the header. Again, it is also not a good approach. We will see how we can also reduce this complexity also later on. We have a separate concept, but for now, this is how we are going to do that. Okay. Then I have my final. I will start storing into the final. So ls final. I will start storing it. Ls final employee ID. Employee ID is equal to ls employee hyphen employee ID. I will start storing the data. ls final employee name is equal to ls final hyphen employee name. Then ls final hyphen department is equal to ls final hyphen department. Then ls final manager is equal to manager, right? Then rest of the columns from our item also. So ls final, no, why I am writing final here? It will be employee. Please focus on the code. Employee and employee. Okay. Then I will go for the rest of the 2 columns. One is project ID. So project ID is equal to ls project this time, right?
Yes.
Project ID ls final project name is equal to ls project name. Then at last what we will do, we will simply append it ls final to lt final, and I will clear the work area. Okay. This is how we are going to bring the data into the final. Syntax check, activate, and at last we will directly display my data. So loop at lt final into ls final and loop, and I will display my data using write statement. So write ls final hyphen employee ID, ls final hyphen employee name, ls final department, ls final manager, ls final project ID, and then ls final project name, right? Project name. Let's check for the syntax. There is no error. Activate it. I will put here a debugger. To see if I am able to get all this data or not. So I will give here input 101 to 105. Execute. Desktop 3. Let's double click on lt final. Yes, 15 records are there. So see here, focus on it. For each one, I am getting 101 records, right? 3 times. Their corresponding project ID and project name. Is it? Any doubt here?
No. This is clear.
Perfect, right? So if I will execute, see here, I am getting all the data. In a single row, my data is not able to adjust my screen, so it has simply flowed to the next row, right?
Yes.
But I am able to get the data. This is one approach to use the concept of for all entries and store the data in your item. One approach. One thing you can also do here, if your LT employee is not initial, we are bringing data from item. Else, we can also give here a else condition that if header data we are not able to if LT employee is initial, that is if it is empty, let's say I can write here something, what I can write here, I can write here, mm, right here, let's say, there is, oh sorry, not in double quotes, in single quotes, no data present in employee for corresponding data for corresponding entry in select option, right? This I can display. So instead of writing all this loop, just copy them, remove from here. We can take it inside the if condition, right? If data is coming, then we will display, otherwise there is no meaning of it.
Yes.
So all of them is now is not inside the is not initial condition. If they will be there, we will display the data, otherwise I will display this message. Now let's see. Just I am showing you how we can beautify our code and logic. Now put here a debugger on is not initial condition. I will go for execute, and let's say I'm entering here 110 to 115. I will go for execute. We are at desktop 3. Now double click on LT employee. It is initial, right? There is no data. Can you see here initial standard?
Yes.
No data. So if I now I will click on F6, I am at line 47. Now if I will click on F6, where I am at write statement, and I am able to get it. So user will understand, yes, there is no data. We can directly display. Please enter the correct entry, right? Please enter the correct entry so that you will be able to get the data. So this is one approach. Now another approach. Okay. So we are inside the for all entries. This was one approach using loop within a loop. Then we have another approach using read statement inside the loop. I am just showing you variety of option to get the same kind of result, but every of this is like not much preferred. This is more preferred. Again, I will show you some more better options. Okay. So I'm going back. I will click on copy button, and let's make another code so that you guys can refer this code if you will not be able to solve it by yourself. So I'm changing it to, yeah, deep dive 1 now. Activate it. So here another approach is that, let's just comment it out. What we will do, always go for loop on the item table. Okay, go for loop on the item table. Loop at LT project into ls project. Go for the loop at item table, and then we will start storing the data. So let's bring this data for the project one, right? These two of them are from item, right? They are from item. So I will first bring them, comment them. Then what I will do, I know that for my each item there is only one header, right? We have got only one header. I already know it. So what else I can do? I can perform here read operation directly. Read table my LT employee into LS employee, and I will check with key employee ID. Employee ID is equal to LS project hyphen employee ID. So for this I will read it. I will check the size of RC condition. So if size sub RC equals to 0, and if it is equal to 0, I will then bring the rest of the columns. Okay.
Yes.
Inside this, then uncomment each of them. Okay. And at the end of the loop, just append it. Append ls final to lt final and clear work area. Now think on that. Which one is more better? First one or second one? Which one is more efficient? Which one will take less time?
I think the second one.
Definitely. Read operation. Either linear search or binary search. Time complexity order of n only. Here we are performing loop. The time complexity of this code is order of n square, n into n. The time complexity of this code is only n. See the clear difference. If the time complexity here is 100, here you are going to get 10 only. 10 second and 100 second, right? So 10 million seconds and only 1 million second. This is the difference.
Yes.
Clear difference. Totally depends on the requirement. Okay. As a developer, you will have to develop your logic, how you can write more efficient code. Go for pretty printer and activate it. Execute. Let's see if I'm able to get the data or not. 105. Execute it. See here. I'm able to get all the data. Same to same. Is there any difference?
No.
Is there any difference? No difference. Same to same. Read operation. I am getting the first matching record. I know there is only one record for these item tables in the header. Then why do we need for the loop? But there can be possibility that there might be some duplicate or any other kind of data in our header and item. I don't know what kind of cardinality they are going to follow. So this one we can also need. So in the upcoming sessions, we will see how we can also reduce the complexity of this loop within a loop. A parallel cursor concept is there. I will show you. But two ways for now, this one and this one. Totally up to you what kind of approach you are going to prefer for doing all these things. Okay. For all entries. So the question here is when to use the concept of for all entries. Simple answer will be whenever we will have to fetch the data from the dependent table, we will always go for the for all entries. Is this thing clear now? One approach used for all entries to bring the data from your item table based on the data that is already present in your header table.